friends, it's Krista here with Outgrowing, and today I just wanted to check in with you guys here. Recently I've had a few people asking me, how do you start a flower farm? And or like how can I get started on this? Like, how do I do this? Like, I want to have cut flowers, I want to grow cut flowers. Like, I've had that question come up quite a bit, so I wanted to come on here and answer that question to the best of my ability. Honestly, disclaimer straight up to bat here, I have only been growing flowers on a larger scale for, this is my third summer. It's fourth year of actually growing cut flowers. The first year was just kind of like adding them to my garden, to like my vegetable garden, to add some flowers into it. Once I fell in love with that, I was like, I gotta grow more of these. And then I just started to get into growing it. So this is, my disclaimer is, I am very new at this. I have lots to learn. I don't know everything. Anybody that tries to tell you that they know everything about growing, they're lying. There's always something that comes up that you don't expect or maybe haven't ever encountered, and that's fine. That's what the fun is all about when it comes to growing food or vegetables or anything like that. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of touch base on the absolute very basics of starting your cut flower garden, your flower farm. I hate to use the term farm because when I think of farm, I think in acres. I don't necessarily think in, my backyard style. So I consider myself a flower grower, plain and simple. I grow about 2,000 square feet of flowers. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 2,500 square feet. So I am a flower grower, a flower producer. I am not a flower farmer. I mean, I guess you could say that, but I'm a flower grower. That's what I say. I'm just learning. So my very first word or tip is to just start. Number one, first and foremost, doesn't matter the size of space you have. It doesn't matter like this. I mean, yes, it matters the soil that you have. But the very first thing you can do is plant some seeds. Some of my go-to to just start with seeds in the ground, you can just plant them straight up. They're good starter flowers that don't need to be pre-started in a greenhouse or under grow lights. I'm going to say zinnias number one. They're classic cut flower. Everybody loves them. They're super easy to grow. They love the heat. So those ones are pretty awesome. Number one, first and foremost. Secondly, cosmos. Those are, pardon me, I just ate an apple. Cosmos are pretty easy to grow too. They grow big and bushy. They have nice green foliage, so they're really, really beautiful as well. You can grow some baby's breath for a filler. Baplurum is a great filler. You can plant all these. You just can plant from seed directly into the garden. They don't need to be pre-started. Amaranth, that's a good filler as well, and a beautiful addition to it. You can add some grasses, some millet, wildflowers. If you have tons of wildflowers growing, those are great too. You can even plant wildflowers and get those growing in your first year. Bachelor's buttons. I'm just trying to look out here what I still have growing. Phacelia, that's a good one. The bees love it. If you're just starting out, like, those are some good ones. Dahlias, you can plant those tubers, get flowers off them the first year too. Those are beautiful to grow. Sunflowers, I'm in the patch. How can I forget? Sunflowers. Okay, so those are just a few off the top of my head that I think, is great to start with. You can plant them by seed in your garden and you are going to produce some flowers. There's some that need to be started in a greenhouse or under grow lights, like your snapdragons, your lisianthus, your status, your scabiosa, your bells of Ireland can be started. They actually can grow by seed too. But anyway, so there's a ton of stuff. There's so much that the best thing to do is look up your zone. So I'm in zone 3. And look and see what grows well in your zone. Or if you're looking online my suggestions are in Canada, William Dam Seed Company, or in the States, Johnny's Seeds, or either or. I order from both. And then there's Vessie's, there's T&T Seeds, there's Stokes, there's Early's, I order from De Vrooman, Van Noort. Those are wholesale companies. I also order plugs from a friend of mine who has a greenhouse, which I'm hoping this spring to do a video with her. She's going to do a whole cut flower section this year, so I'm excited about that. So anyways, there's a lot of places to pick from. And the nice thing about Johnny's and William Dam, they often have, Johnny's is the absolute best. They have the most unbelievable descriptions on like what you're growing, how to grow it, what they need for sunlight, what zones they grow in best, annual, perennial. They have an abundance of information right on their website. But you can find a plant that you like, a flower plant that you like, and you can just Google it and look it up. There's a ton of resources for books. I have lots of cut flower books. Florettes, she's a flower farmer. She breeds flowers. She's unreal. She grows a ton of flowers. She's got seeds as well. So the thing is to just get started and start small. You don't need to go out there and like cultivate up 2 acres and get going. Trust me, you will be overwhelmed in a second. I started off with just zinnias, snapdragons. I'm trying to think. There was a couple other like random flowers that I just started with, not even by accident. I just bought them, threw them in the ground, wanted to add some flowers, and then also wildflowers. I guess those two. I started to love how that looked so much when I'd cut them and I put them into mason jars. I just love that. So I was like, I'm gonna start off and I'm gonna add more. I predominantly grew vegetables, and then I started that, and then I started a little subscription. But my very first, like I said, is to get started. Just start. So find yourself a little piece of land that you can grow some flowers in. I would say your best option is to have some good drainage soil that is full of organic matter. The garden I'm in, my garden here, it's only 3 years old. We have put cow manure into it. I compost back in whatever is left, compost that back into the ground for next year and just cultivate it back in. So for instance, my spinach is all gone, it's all done, it's gone to seed. I want to collect some seed off of it for next year, but I'm going to pull it and I will work it back into the ground. And the same with, whatever I have left over. I like to do that because all the organic matter helps to create great, awesome soil. So if you have a compost, you can add that to your soil. You can add bags of manure, like whatever is easiest in your yard. So if you're in a backyard, it might be easier to just grab some bags of compost or manure if you have a small garden, or call your local landscape company. They may be able to help you out with that if you don't have very good soil in your yard or whatever. If you've never planted it, then just plant some things. You will learn from that. What does your garden need? What it doesn't need? There are places you can go to get soil, or you can send your soil in to get soil tests done. I wouldn't even recommend that to start with. Absolutely just start with planting some seeds in your garden. That is the absolute number one thing to do, and you will learn so much from that. If you are growing on a scale that is, you want to have cut flowers, you want to sell them for bouquets, or you just want to have like an abundance of cut flowers for yourself, my tip is to plant them in rows. So you're not going to plant it so it looks pretty. You can see behind me here, that's my zinnia patch. It's kind of hard to tell, but it is planted in rows. They're just tight together. So they're planted in rows. Behind me here is the sunflowers. They're planted in rows. So they're not necessarily planted to look aesthetically pleasing. They look great because they're beautiful, but they're planted for production. They're not planted for just your landscape, is what I'm saying. So the other thing too is deciding on what you want. Do you want to have just a lovely little flower garden in your front yard that you can go in and snip flowers from? Sure, then you probably don't want to plant them in rows. But if you want something that's a little bit more meant for production, you want to have a lot, maybe you want to eventually have a U-pick. Well, then you want to have flowers in rows that people can walk down and not disrupt the flowers beside them. So you have to think about that. Like, can you reach the middle? You know, how big of a row do you want? And then you have to have space in between to walk down. So there's a lot of little things to think about when it comes to growing flowers, even growing vegetables on a larger scale. But absolutely, there's like basic things that you just need to do is to find some seeds that you like, some flowers that you love, research them, make sure they can grow in your area. And then if you need to start them, great. If you have a grow light, that's fine too. Then you can get into that. I've just started the last 2 years, started to grow some of my seeds from seeds. So for my first year, everything I grew, I just planted out. Then I realized, you know what? I want flowers a little bit earlier. So then and some different varieties. So I started some seedlings inside. I also will go to the greenhouse and I'll buy a few to support them. I don't buy a ton from them. A friend of mine who has a greenhouse, she will order me in plugs and do kind of the wholesale thing with me with that. And then I have ordered plugs and bulbs and tubers and things like that from wholesale suppliers. Now that I'm kind of venturing more into the whole cut flower world here. So, you know, you guys, I don't really want to overwhelm you with a ton of information. I think that's the biggest mistake when it comes to growing anything, is that there is so much information that people get totally overwhelmed and then they don't do it. They just don't do it. It's like, holy shit, this sounds insane. How am I ever supposed to grow anything? It is easy. It is absolutely easy. You may not have a green thumb. People say that. I don't have a green thumb. What you don't have is the patience to grow stuff. Everybody can grow something, but you know what? You need sunlight, you need water. If you are growing on a larger scale, you may need fertilizer, or like for me, my flowers need to be fertilized. Like they absolutely do. I grow intensively. I want lots. I want them to have tall stems. I have to fertilize them. You're going to say, well, how do I know what needs fertilizer and what doesn't? Well, once you start growing a few things, you're going to understand a bit better, like what they're lacking, what they need. If you are going to go into it like full bore, I don't even really all that information for that. I mean, I'm still just very, very new at growing. Oopsies. Oh, I don't know if this doesn't work out. Anyway, I'm really new at this too, so I can't give you the advice of somebody that has a large flower farm. There are some YouTube pages I 100% watch. Now I'm going to screw it up. I'll put them in the comments because I don't want to screw up the names of their YouTube channels. I'm terrible with remembering their names, and I just have a subscription to them, so then I just watch them. But Flower Hill Farm is one. The Garden Workshop is that? Oh, I hate to say it. Anyways, there's a few good ones that I watch that I get tips from. I mean, these people are really, really good at growing stuff. Yet everybody's growing conditions are so different. So like what I grow really good, you may not be able to grow really good. Something you may be able to grow really good, I may not be able to grow really good. And so the best thing is to start growing in your own space and navigating it that way. And then asking questions. I had a few gals in the salon the other day that were asking me like, okay, Krista, how come my tomatoes have blossom end rot? Well, I know for a fact that blossom end rot can be caused from, like overwatering, underwatering, nutrients, like depletion, like they don't have enough of something. And so I just said, well, like tell me I asked them, like, what are you doing? Like, how often are you watering? Well, every day. They were watering every single day. That's too much water. That is too much water. I mean, tomatoes need water, yes. But I said, like, my suggestion, and I said, disclaimer again, this is what I do. I water the crap out of everything when I'm here on the weekend. I water everything really good. And then as time to use up the water, dry out. If it rains in between, that's fine. But all week long while I'm at my house, the garden doesn't get watered. That could be bad. Like, I'm sure, during the hot days of July, I could have stood to water a lot more than I was. But it's just one of the jobs that I can't put on Mark. And so I just do the best that I can and water intensively when I'm here. And you can see my garden looks just fine. So, and my tomatoes don't have blossom end rot. Knock on wood, they don't yet. But there's certain things that you can do. But the other thing I said to them, like, you don't want to start, like somebody said, like, what about putting Epsom salts? Like, you don't want to start amending just one thing because you're going to throw things out of whack. My honest opinion about if you feel like you have imbalances in your soil, the absolute best thing to do is just add organic matter back into the soil. So, compost, manure, all that stuff. You can, like I said, you can get soil tests done. I've never done that. I have a pretty good idea of like what's lacking in certain areas. I mean, you don't know 100%, but if you garden long enough, and I've grown vegetables for probably half my life now, you start to have a pretty good idea of what is happening with certain things and what you need more of, and if you need nitrogen or not. And I do add fertilizer. I'm not going to lie. Because I grow for high production. But yeah, as a beginner, find your space. You want to cultivate it, get it worked up. You can use, there's some biodegradable mulch called Bio360. I've not used that because I have such a huge growing space and I succession plant a lot, but I am considering using some next year. The weeds this year were absolutely out of control. I couldn't even get a handle on it. Like, it's still, like, there's still things that are just crazy. I did 3 good weedings of the whole garden. Things are still out of control. So I am thinking about some of that next year, but I haven't looked too much into that either. And there's a whole no-till gardening movement. I like the idea of that too. I just haven't researched a ton into it. So there's so much to know with gardening. You've got to find what works for you and do that exact thing. So you guys, I'm going to keep it basic for next year. And maybe I'll do a cute little video and we can start some seeds together in the garden and have like a little grow along and get you guys to buy some of the seeds that I'm going to use. And then we can just plant them all together and see how our gardens are growing. I think that would be kind of cool to do. So yeah, my tip would be to just find a few seeds and a little space to start growing in. And if you do want to grow on quite a larger scale to start with, like you're just like, I want to go full bore into this, then I don't think I'm necessarily one to give you all the advice on that, other than, you're going to have to deal with quite a bit of weeds. You're going to have to deal with, like that. You're going to have to cultivate your land. You're going to have to get the garden all worked up. So I would start now in the fall for the spring, like start getting your space ready to roll. And then there's a lot more that goes along with that than just starting, because if you're going to grow a huge space, you don't want to have too many fails because you're going to have a lot of space. So this is like your very basic, like, I want to plant some cut flowers. How do I do that? This is what this video is about. That if you want to know more information on how I grow a little bit larger scale, you can certainly comment in the comment section and ask some questions for sure. I don't know everything, as I've said before, but this is my 3rd season growing on a fairly larger scale. So you can fire the questions away at me, and then I can hopefully answer to the best of my ability. And if you have any good tips, if you're a flower grower and you have anything that you would 100% recommend, do add it in the comment section. This is, again, for very basic beginners. I'm just starting out and I just want to, put some flower seeds in the ground kind of video. We can go more in depth maybe in the wintertime. I'll have a little bit more time and we can talk a bit more about that. But I just wanted to get on here because I have literally had quite a few people asking me recently about this, and I am excited. I want you all to grow flowers and vegetables. I want everybody to do it. I think it's amazing. It brings me so much joy. I think it'll bring you so much joy. If you can grow your own flowers, own vegetables, go for it, do it. Let's get you on board. Let's get you fired up. Let's get those flowers growing. And it's not intimidating and it's not scary. It's awesome and it's lots of fun. Just, you have to ask questions when you don't know the answers. So that's going to do it for me, you guys. I hope you liked my video. Give me a thumbs up if you did. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching.